Welcome everybody to the Captain Spot. I'm your host Justin Freeman, 6 foot 1 inches, 275 pounds of fantasy knowledge. And the fantasy gods are smiling on us here tonight with a double header, Monday Night Football edition. We'll start the game with Washington-Pittsburgh, and we'll move into the nightcap with Buffalo-San Francisco. And that's the game we're going to be talking about here. The Bills are traveling out west to San Francisco. Looks like it should be a very tight game as the Bills are dogs on the road by just 1 point. Vegas looks like this is almost a pick'em. The total sitting at 47 right now. So we're talking about a pretty much straight down the middle, anybody can win it type of game. Total not too high, not too low, just right in the sweet spot, baby. This is a great opportunity for us to win with depth chart knowledge because there are a lot of things that have changed with these two teams, especially on San Francisco, who's getting a little bit healthier. We will not obviously be getting Jimmy Garoppolo or George Kittle back for this game. However, Tevin Coleman's back, Brandon Ayuk's back, Deebo Samuel's playing. Everything's kind of starting to fill back together for San Francisco. That running back rotation is getting very healthy. They're now up to four true running backs in that offense. In fact, we'll want to be careful to pay attention to the inactives report to see if all four of those guys actually dress. But we're talking Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, and Jeff Wilson Jr. On top of that, Kyle Juszczyk, fullback, also part of that offense as well. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Jeff Wilson was left off the active roster. But if he's on there, he's obviously the short yardage goal line specialist. Perfect opportunity for a guy who could come in and vulture a touchdown from Raheem Mostert or Tevin Coleman or Jerick McKinnon, whoever's out there on the field. So 4 running backs, kind of a pain in the neck. We'll figure this all out. Now on the Buffalo side, everybody's healthy there as well. Keep in mind John Ross is on IR as he was last week. But so we're looking at mostly the same roster that we saw last week for the Bills. And, that includes an increased role for Gabriel Davis, who's sliding right into wide receiver 3 duties alongside Cole Beasley and, of course, Stephon Diggs. Now, if you think about how both of these teams would like to attack, I think, obviously, the Bills want to run their offense through Josh Allen. Allen provides a great floor-ceiling combo with the way he accumulates fantasy points both on the ground and in the air. I don't think that the Bills can count on just being able to hand the ball off to Devin Singletary and Zach Moss in this game. So Singletary, Moss, not a couple guys that I'm super attracted to in this game. I think their best bet is going to be letting Josh Allen get loose and make some plays for this Bills offense. On the 49ers side, I think they would love to run the football. They've got a stable of running backs there at their disposal. The problem is trying to forecast exactly how we think that's going to go with Tevin Coleman inserted back in this offense. So why don't we take a look at the pricing? At the 4 running back positions for the 49ers, we have Raheem Mostert, star running back, $9,600. We can expect the most from Mostert. He came back, played 40% of the snaps last week, got 48% of the team's rushes. If that serves as sort of a minimum threshold for what we can expect for him moving forward, then great. However, if that serves as sort of the median for him, it's a little bit concerning, especially as we enter another running back into this stable. I have a little bit more confidence than that in Raheem Mostert. I think that serves as about a floor for him moving forward. He's clearly the best running back on the roster, and I think Kyle Shanahan knows that and wants to get this guy involved. But let's talk about these other guys. We have McKinnon, $1,400. We have Tevin Coleman, $2,200. Jeff Wilson, $1,800. Now, each of these guys has a little bit of a role, and the one for Tevin Coleman is probably the least predictable at the moment. We don't know when Tevin Coleman's first game back how much he'll be involved. He's sort of a jack of all trades. He can get involved in the pass game, get a little bit involved in the run game, whereas, Jerick McKinnon, I think that's very concrete, the way the 49ers would want to use him as a part of this rotation. It would be strictly in a passing game role, I think, at this point. Jeff Wilson, also very specific, would be third downs, short yardage, goal line situations, like 3rd and 1 or 1st and goal at the 1. That would be where Jeff Wilson could come in, still a high value touch from somebody in this offense, such as Raheem Mostert. So overall, there's a lot of ways that can get a little bit dicey, but Raheem Mostert still the guy there. Tevin Coleman, the biggest question mark. McKinnon, your passing game guy, especially if the game got a little out of control, McKinnon would be the guy out there on the field. And Jeff Wilson, your vulture. So overall, you've got those roles down pat. Question is, how are they all going to mix together? It's kind of a good opportunity for you to play multiple 49ers running backs in the same lineup. We know the field does not do this enough based on how often it hits, so feel free to throw two 49er running backs in your same lineup. Now, if we look at the pass-catching options there for the 49ers, so start with Nick Mullens, I guess, the quarterback there, 10-2 for Nick Mullens. I think it's a little overpriced for what we can expect from Mullens, especially I think this is going to be a more grounded attack for the 49ers. But there are some options he has to throw the ball to. This will be his best complement of receivers since he took over as the starter in this offense in Week 9. So we'll have Debo, we'll have Kendrick Bourne, we'll have Brandon Ayuk, we'll have Jordan Reed. All these guys will be rocking and rolling. Now, I think the core three guys are Ayuk, Samuel, and Bourne in this offense. As great as Richie James played all those Thursday nights ago, if you'll recall his breakout game, I think he's going to be the odd man out in this offense, and that sucks for him. Perhaps he'll be rotating in and might max out around a 30 or 40% snap share, but overall probably not enough usage for us to consider Richie James. It's going to be Ayuk, it's going to be Debo, and it's going to be Kendrick Bourne out there primarily. Now, one thing that could be said as a added layer of benefit to Richie James is he has been out-snapping Kendrick Bourne so far in this offense over the last several weeks. In the last 2 weeks, 97% of the team snaps have gone to Richie James, and 88% in the following week, 58 and 57 for Kendrick Bourne. So perhaps it's not so cut and dry between Bourne and Richie James. In fact, perhaps Richie James has overtaken Kendrick Bourne as the number 3. Now that I talked through this, is kind of helpful for me too, to just look at those numbers and say, wow, objectively, Richie James is running ahead of Kendrick Bourne at this point. So good on Richie James. Perhaps he can be a part of this offense as a bit of a wild card for you off the board. Because people are going to be interested in playing Ayuk and playing Debo Samuel, and deservedly so. Two guys who are absolutely stud playmakers and are going to be a part of this running game too. As we talk about dividing out the rush attempts to these running backs, we got to remember to save a carry or two for both Debo and Brandon Ayuk, two guys who have a rushing profile themselves. So overall, the targets have been flowing. Debo came in and got 39% of the targets last week. Just tremendous usage there for Debo Samuel. If I have to pick a guy, it's definitely Debo, even though he's $1,800 more than Ayuk. I think he's clearly their preferred option there in San Francisco. Ross Dwelley and Jordan Reed are your two starting tight ends there for San Francisco. It is $800 for Ross Dwelley, $5,000 for Jordan Reed. Now, while I get it because Jordan Reed tripled the number of targets for Ross Dwelley in the last 2 games that they've played, 15% versus 5% in Week 10, 18% versus 6% in Week 12. So overall, Jordan Reed certainly going to have the better target prediction, but Ross Dwelley, $800, that's just a hair north of min price. We can certainly be considering Ross Dwelley as part of our builds. Let's talk about the Buffalo side, where Josh Allen, 11-6, is also going to be a core part of the way we're going to build lineups. He's going to be just a big piece of, a big staple. Like, you can't count on a whole lot in this game, but Josh Allen being a part of the winning lineup is one of the things you can feel the best about. Now, obviously, that's not a guarantee, as nothing is in Showdown in a 1-game sample size. So, if we think the field's overweight on him, we're going to fade him. If we think the field isn't on him enough, we're just going to lock him in. And I think probably the latter is the more likely to be true. Now, if we think about the running game, it is Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. And, it looked like Zach Moss had overtaken Singletary for lead back duties, but it kind of flipped a little bit last week as Singletary got a few more snaps. But if you dig a bit deeper, got a few more rush attempts, but if you dig a bit deeper, the snaps favored Zach Moss, 60% to 40% in favor of Zach Moss. This is now 4 straight weeks that Zach Moss has outsnapped Devin Singletary. So I think Moss, despite a little bit of flip-flopping here recently, is clearly the better option than Devin Singletary at this point. At tight end, Dawson Knox is the preferred option there, but Dawson Knox has been getting abysmal target volume, and at 4K, just a guy that you can probably go ahead and X out of your player pool. Don't even worry about any of these guys here at the tight end position for Buffalo. Instead, focus on the receivers, where it is Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, and Cole Beasley. Really tight 3-wide set. If we look at what happened last week, the first week without John Brown, 97% of snaps for Stephon Diggs, full-time player. 97% of snaps for Gabriel Davis, full-time player. 85% of snaps for Cole Beasley. pretty much a full-time player. The only guy who slid in otherwise was Isaiah McKenzie, who got 19%, and 1 snap for Jake Kumaro. So overall, we can feel really good about that tight 3-wide set. I don't think you have to get so unique as to play a McKenzie or a Kumaro, but if you wanted to, McKenzie would be the guy there. So overall, it's just a matter of where it fits in those price points. It's $5,800 for Gabriel Davis. That's $1,000 cheaper than Cole Beasley. Obviously, both of those guys drew 17% of the targets last week, 38% for Stephon Diggs. Just a big number. I think Stephon Diggs is certainly in play, not only as a flex option, but as captain as well. As we think through guys who have captain appeal, Stephon Diggs certainly going to be one of them. So why don't we take a look at who our preferred captain choices are for the week? And it looks like Josh Allen rises to the top here for us as our top captain. And again, we don't always get quarterbacks there. In fact, we often get players at the receiver position pop there quite a bit. But Allen, his dual threat ability means he can get there without necessarily paying off somebody else. So Josh Allen, the best way to get there, coming in at about 23% in our captain allocation. Stephon Diggs behind him, deservedly so. And then I think you can see Diggs getting there the most easily because of just what a big role he has in that offense. Whereas the San Francisco guys have a tougher time getting there because there are just so many of them. Stephon Diggs has both the upside and the target volume to go along with it. So Debo is after Stephon Diggs, and then we get a big tier drop down after Debo down to Nick Mullens, Cole Beasley, Raheem Mostert, and then it follows after that. So let's take a look at the flex appearances where, of course, Josh Allen, Nick Mullens, the two quarterbacks are going to be sort of core staples of what we want to try to get in there more times than not. If we're fading those guys, we're doing it for leverage reasons. And after those guys is Stephon Diggs, Debo Samuel, Cole Beasley. Beasley gets you a nice little floor there out of the slot. Robbie Gould, the kicker for San Francisco. That's about as high as I've seen a kicker grade out here this year on these captain spot appearances. And so here in the flex, Robbie Gould going to be a big piece of that. Jordan Reed, Raheem Mostert. And you see there's Mostert. There's the first running back there for the 49ers. And you see where how often he's appearing, just a little bit north of 20% in the flex. So overall, we're going to have to make some decisions as to how likely these guys are to appear and how exposed we want to be. A lot of that's going to have to come with building a handful of lineups, get a feel for what you think the field is going to do, and then make your decisions based on that. If you think the field is going to be overly high on Raheem Mostert, he's a great fade because we can't project that volume with any degree of certainty. And even if he gets a big workload, he's not guaranteed to be in the winning lineup. So there's a lot of reasons to fade anybody in Showdown that you think has more paths to failure than to upside. So overall, we got the information we need. We'll rock and roll. Make sure that you like this video. Subscribe right here on the Mayo Media Network YouTube channel. You can find my YouTube channel at youtube.com/thecptspot. That's Thursday night shows and Sunday night shows each and every week. Subscribe to the Captain Spot YouTube podcast feed. How about that? Podcast right on your phone. Go check that out. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're getting your podcasts. Go check it out. You'll get three Showdown feeds right in your right in your app each and every week. So that's all for us this week. Hope you guys run hot. We'll see you next Monday for the Monday Night Show. See you Thursday over on the Captain Spot YouTube channel. Good luck, everybody.